Thanks for tuning in to Veterans Voices. I'm your host, Joshua Zebley, and my co-host is Elena Kim. Today we'll be talking about benefits that every veteran should know. I want to introduce our guest, Ben Yang of the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Office, and Maurice Delmer, the Veterans Service Officer for San Francisco County. Welcome to the show. If you have any questions or comments, follow the QR code on your screen to join us in Zoom webinar. We would love for you to be part of the show. Maurice, Ben, Elena, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, I should say. Today's going to be a great show. Ben, can you tell us a little bit about your experience working with veterans?
Yeah, ever since my time in service, I really just still had the passion to continue to serve some way, somehow. So I worked over at San Francisco State University for about 7 years as a certifying official. And then since then, joined the team over here in Contra Costa County. And I love it here. I love doing what we do on a daily basis, which is helping veterans and their families.
Thank you, Ben. I'm so glad you're here, and it's been obviously a pleasure to work with you the last couple of years. How about you, Maurice?
Yeah, I think my journey to this point started with me transitioning out of the military, and like many veterans or service members who transitioned out of the military, I really lacked an understanding or awareness of my benefits. And I eventually got a job with the VA Vet Center program, Readjustment Counseling Services, and as a Veterans Outreach Program Specialist, where I reached out to veterans and helped inform them about the benefits and services available to them through the VA and in the community. And then this was a natural, working at the County Veteran Services Office was a natural progression from that, going to the benefit side of things from more of the VA mental health and healthcare side of things.
Well, that's super exciting to have you, Ben, and Maurice on the show with us. I know Josh and I, we've got some knowledge, but we're not the subject matter experts. And today's conversation is going to be about some really exciting benefits that we don't really get to talk about a lot. So thank you both for being on the show with us. We're going to get started by talking about 3 very special benefits. We're going to talk about the college tuition fee waiver for veteran dependents. We're going to talk about Chapter 35, which is a federal benefit offered by the VA. And we're also going to talk about another federal benefit, vocational readiness and employment, often referred to in our committee as the acronym VR&E. Maurice, can you get us started by talking about the college tuition fee waiver? Now, again, this is not a federal benefit, right?
That's correct, Elena. The California College Fee Waiver Program is a state benefit provided by the state of California in the California Veterans and Military Code. And it's a program for the dependent. It's a benefit for the dependents of veterans, spouses and children. And it's based on it is based on the veteran's service-connected disability rating, anywhere from 0 to 100%. And it waives the tuition or fees for any in-state public institution of higher education in California. So that could be a community college, Cal State system school, or a UC system school.
There's so much in there that we have to unpack, but I mean, any in-state college is like a big deal. Like, what about UCLA or Berkeley?
Yeah, absolutely. If the dependent is eligible based on the veteran's service-connected disability, they can get their tuition and fees waived. And there's actually 2 plans. Well, there's 4 plans, but we'll talk about 2 because the 2 of them are really the ones that matter for dependents of veterans, and that's Plan A and Plan B. And I'll start with Plan B because I think that's the more the one that most veteran or most dependents are eligible for. That it requires the veteran to have a less than 100% service-connected disability. Sorry, they can have 100% service-connected disability rating, but for the most part, it's veterans who have a less than 100% service-connected disability rating. The dependents are eligible for Plan B. And again, it isn't income-based. It is based on the dependent's income. So they would apply to their school, and if they get in, they could apply for the benefit through a county veteran services office, and they have to provide some documentation, including their previous year's tax return. Again, this is for the Plan B, their previous year's tax return, their birth certificate, or anything that shows they're a stepchild, or some marriage certificate, or adoption paperwork to show that relationship to the veteran, and other documentation as well, which is County Veteran Service Office would, of course, provide that information about what is required. And then once approved, they take the letter that is generated by the County Veteran Service Office to the school certifying official, and then the benefit is processed. The veteran does not need to be a resident of California. However, residency needs to be established. The California residency needs to be established by the student, and that's based on the school's determination, not by the CVSO or the state of California's determination. So that's an important thing to note. And then there's Plan A, and Plan A is specifically for veterans who are 100% service-connected, permanent and total, or for temporary disability, individual unemployability, TDIU, and those who passed away due to a service-connected disability or passed away in the line of duty. And this benefit is eligible. This benefit is for dependents and spouses. And I forgot to mention that Plan A is not, spouses are not eligible under Plan B, but they are eligible under Plan A. Plan A does not require an income, is not income limited, but there is an age limit for dependents of 27 years old. So there is no age limit for Plan B. So there's a lot of nuance in the overall benefit. But again, your County Veteran Service Office would be the place to get all your questions answered about this benefit and apply for and receive your approval letter.
Ben, do you have anything to add about the CalVet college tuition fee waiver? Maurice, great job. Thank you. I think that's you covered it very well. So let's see if Ben, working in San Francisco State, did you see that a lot?
Yeah, no, I mean, the tuition fee waiver is probably one of the most common education benefits that dependents used. I mean, Mo pretty much, hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But, if there is a student veteran who is also a dependent of a veteran, the age restriction increases. But, it is really smart to speak with your County Veteran Service Office because, when I got here, when I was at San Francisco State, the students were asking, can I get a reimbursement for the previous years? Working in the county office, I mean, we've been told that if a veteran is filing a claim and they are expecting to be rated, that they should apply, even without a disability rating. Why? Because when they do get the award for the disability rating, they can then appeal the denial for the college fee waiver. So that's really something to think about.
That's a great pro tip, I think we would call that, right? And I know you and Maurice are going to have plenty of pro tips. The fee waiver to me is a really good tool for us to bring veterans into our office. I myself have spoken to veterans and they say, I don't need to go in, everything's fine. I'll say, well, do you have high school age students or even kids that are, doesn't matter the age? Yes, I do. Well, let me tell you about this California or CalVet tuition fee waiver. And the schools that you mentioned, Maurice and Lena, UCLA, UC Santa Barbara, UC Davis, they can go tuition free. And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, no way, that's unbelievable. And I myself did not go into the VSO until I think 15 years after I was out, when somebody said exactly what I say to people now. That changes lives. I think this benefit is so underrated that it saves tens of thousands of dollars a year. And then a child that may not have thought about going to college, you're able to tell them in 9th, 10th grade, all you have to do is get in. You have this fee waiver, it's paid for. That changes the way I think people think about, well, I'm gonna have to get loans, I don't wanna do that. It's free. I mean, there's minimal fees, but those are a couple $100 a semester, right? So
yeah, I mean, veterans or dependents come back and say, hey, I was using the fee waiver, why do I still have, fees due? And, we've got to make sure we explain that the tuition fee waiver only waives the tuition. So when they look at their tuition and fees list, there's always mandatory local fees applied by each institution. So those local fees, the students are still, they still need to pay for those.
That's pretty small, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably 5% of the entire cost of attending that, which is pretty amazing. So, and I don't think anybody mentioned, but you can use this all the way up until your master's degree, and as long as it's state funded, right? And sometimes PhDs, if they're state funded.
Yeah, I mean, like Maurice said, Plan B doesn't have an age restriction. It's just income restricted based off, the dependents. You look at their 1040s. That's what it's really based on.
Right.
And I'd like to jump back. Sorry, I'd like to jump back to the part where we talked about what it pays for. And I don't want to be negative, but unfortunately, it doesn't pay for living costs. So your, room, board, books. But the tuition and fees alone is just a huge, huge benefit. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, that it doesn't pay for living costs.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You're still going to have to figure some of that out on your own. But even given that, it's an excellent benefit. As Josh said, it's life-changing. One question that I think comes up with this specific benefit is, what programs can I use it for, right? Can I use it for a law degree? Can I use it for a master's degree? I want to go into a specialized program about, AI or tech. Is it going to cover that specific tuition? What would you say to someone who's asking you at the County Veteran Service Office what program it will cover? Either Maurice or Ben.
I'll jump in because actually, funny enough, I just was looking through our emails today in our general inbox, and there was a question from a veteran about their 11th grade child who wants to go to medical school possibly using the tuition, the California tuition fee waiver. And there's some fees associated with medical school and other kind of higher programs, and I'm blanking on the acronym or the term, but there's additional fees for those higher level programs like medical degrees. And I'll be honest, I don't know. I would have to look up whether the fee waiver program covers those additional fees. But the fact of the matter is, you can get at least portion of those fees, tuition and fees waived for any degree program, at any public institution of higher education. Now, again, as we mentioned a couple times, 27 for Plan A, 27 years is the age limit, but there is no age limit under Plan B.
Maybe you're thinking of lab fees is what came to mind when you mentioned the medical degree. But what I would always advise people to do is look, your county veteran service office is in charge of processing this benefit for you. And what that means is that they're going to review all your paperwork. They're going to tell you whether or not you're qualified for the tuition fee waiver. But then it's kind of like this exchange that happens at the end when you get that letter from your CVSO. Then you have to take it to your school, and it's really up to them in terms of how they are going to apply it and what programs within their school they're going to accept this letter for. So what I always encourage people to do is talk to your school, make sure you're having that conversation with your school officials ahead of time, so that if you are going for that medical degree, if you are going for that law degree or that really specialized tech program, you're having the conversation while you apply at your county veteran service office. You're having the conversation with your school to make sure, hey, once I get this letter, how is it going to be applied on your end? Are you going to accept it? Are you not? Go line by line and ask them, what parts of this are you going to apply to my tuition?
Yeah, and to your point, Elena, things like extended learning programs that some universities offer may not be covered by the fee waiver.
So check with your school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's, like we all said, the fee waiver is an amazing program that whether it's all paid for or 95% of it, it's more than what it wasn't. So it's a benefit that really, I think, proves that California is a veteran-friendly state. It's run by the California Department of Veterans Affairs, and share this information, please, with anyone watching, because personally, it's one of the worst things to hear that my child just graduated college last year and has this much debt. I wish I would have known about this benefit. My head like wants to explode every time I hear that. And they're already service connected. I'm like, somebody did not tell you, somebody didn't ask you when you guys are service connected, do you have child age students, and tell you about that benefit. So thank you. That's a state funded program. So let's talk, Ben, can you tell us a little about Chapter 35?
Sure. So Chapter 35, it's Dependents Educational Assistance. Now this one does pay the student a monthly amount. Now, the eligibility criteria for this benefit would be the veteran having to be rated permanently and totally disabled by the VA, or the service member passing away while serving active duty, or passing away due to a service-related disability. Now, for Chapter 35, it can pay up to half-time, three-quarter time, or full-time, meaning, half-time attendance, three-quarter time, or full-time. So with this benefit, you can come to your local county veteran service office, apply for the benefit there. It takes about 2 to 3 months before the student receives a certificate of eligibility, which will then have to be taken to their institution of higher learning. So this benefit it's a great benefit. Now, as Maurice stated, for Plan B, it can be 0% all the way to the 100%, right? So with Plan B, you can utilize Chapter 35. So one benefit will pay for your tuition, the other benefit will pay you a monthly allowance. Chapter 35 cannot be utilized with Plan A. That's very important. So when applying for the CalVet fee waiver, you need to decide if you're going to be using, which one works out better for the applicant, really.
And where could veterans find out, or dependents find out more about Chapter 35? Should they go to their VSO, or should they just Google it?
If you Google, you can Google it. You can look up Chapter 35. It'll also list what the new monthly rate is while attending. It'll have the breakdown: half-time, three-quarter time, full-time. Their school certifying official is always a great stop. Why? Because, like Elena said, ask your certifying official, can they use Chapter 35 for the program that they're studying? Now, any chapter benefit, education benefit, except for 31, which we'll talk about later, the program needs to be approved by the VA. So as Maurice stated as well, the extended learning program, now that is something different, right? So you want to make sure you speak with your certifying official.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here and clarify, because Ben just gave us a pro tip, right? So we're talking about two different benefits. One is a state benefit, one is a federal benefit, but he's sharing how you can use these two benefits in conjunction with each other. So it's my understanding, if I'm getting this right, the college tuition fee waiver, if you apply and you're accepted, that there's no money being exchanged, right? The state is not paying the student and then the student is taking that money to their college, right? It is a fee waiver. So before you even get charged as a student, you're going to take your letter to the college and they're going to waive the fees, right? Now, Chapter 35 is money coming from the federal government into the student's pocket. If I got that right so far, I have a follow-up question, Maurice. So does the student or veteran in any of these programs have to pay money back if they fail a class?
That's a great question. And I'm going to actually kind of be squeamish about this question, because if you generate a debt with the VA, you have to pay that money back. I don't know the ins and outs of, if you fail a class or you withdraw after the deadline and the VA has paid you, I would imagine you have to pay that money back, but I don't know the actual answer to that. I'm just going to go ahead and say I imagine. But again, going to your CVSO, that's who looks up this information for you. They can tell you a definitive answer on that. There are so many nuances, and I would actually say another, I use va.gov quite a lot in my job, in my day-to-day, because there is a wealth of information. It is a great website, and there's so much nuance, again, to all these programs. But with Chapter 35, there's all these age limits. There's a 26-year-old age limit for the Chapter 35 benefit, but that can change if you, for instance, if the veteran was was rated 100% permanent and total after the student or the spouse, well, there's no age limit for the spouse, this is for the dependent, but after the dependent turns 26, if the veteran is rated 100% permanent and total service connected by the VA, that age limit can be extended up to possibly 32 years old. So it really depends on when the veteran is rated 100% service connected, or of course passes away due to a service connected disability, unfortunately. But going to va.gov is very helpful, and it's something that I do pretty frequently to get these questions answered. So my lack of knowledge on the previous question that Elena asked, I might go to va.gov or just look into the handy 38 CFR.
Well, I mean, just to answer your question shortly, the only time the student would have to pay back a debt for any education benefit is if they drop after the drop deadline and do not report it to the VA. So what they need to do, again, talk to your certifying official. They'll answer your questions for you as well.
Thank you. So state benefit, federal benefit, and then the next one is VR&E, Veteran Readiness and Employment. We might have to do a little bit and then have a short break, but we're not going to finish the show without talking about VR&E, because that's one with you two on the show. I'm not going to miss that opportunity to share the knowledge you have. So Maurice, it seems like, before the show we spoke a little bit and you know a lot about VR&E. Can you explain what VR&E is to us?
God, yeah, Josh, VR&E is such an expansive program. We're going to focus specifically on the benefit that most veterans are interested in, and this is a program for veterans. There is another component that dependents can take advantage of, kind of career guidance, but the veteran-specific, the program that we're going to focus on has to do with paying the tuition and fees for any school that the veteran is accepted to that is an improved course of education, as well as providing a stipend to that student while they're in school. And so VR&D, Veterans Readiness and Employment, it also used to be called Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment, is a federal benefit chapter. It's also called Chapter 31, so a lot of different terms. And it provides, again, the tuition and fees for not waived, but pays the school the tuition and fees for that veteran, and also pays the veteran a stipend. Now, if the veteran has post 9/11 GI Bill Chapter 33 benefits entitlement remaining, VR&D will pay the monthly housing allowance rate for that benefit based on Chapter 33. Otherwise, there's a basic stipend that VR&D pays. So kind of eligibility, the veteran has to have a service-connected disability of 20% or more, or a 10% disability rating that is considered causes a severe employment handicap. And I'm not quite clear still on what that means, because a 10% rating isn't a high rating, and I don't know how it necessarily causes a severe employment handicap, but that's a determination that VR&D makes. So you can be rated 10%, and be eligible for VR&D. I have seen it happen. So I'm going to kind of go into the process, because you apply, and a county veteran service office can help you apply for VR&D. It's a very simple application that we process. You can also do it on your own. It's again a very simple application. You apply, and then you are given an orientation where you meet with your VR&D counselor, and if you're found minimally eligible. And then the counselor will talk to you kind of about your goals. Now, the important thing to note about this program, about VR&D, is that it's not an education program. It is a career program. The goal of VR&D is to assist veterans who have a service-connected disability that prevents them from becoming employed or is affecting their current employment, to get retrained in a career that they can do despite that disability. Now, the orientation itself is a very kind of nuanced thing. I use the word nuanced a lot because that's the VA for you. But it's a very nuanced thing, and I think a CVSO, a Veterans Service Representative at a CVSO can kind of help walk you through what that orientation looks like and how to best apply, or how to best make an argument, because it very much is like a service-connected disability claim, where you have to provide evidence to support why you need VR&E to assist you. And they're not just necessarily going to give it to you. In some cases they will, but it's really up, the counselor is there to kind of help you to make the case to the VA about why they should approve your education or training plan. And again, it can be used at an approved education program, or it can be used for training at a vocational program. And I don't want to get too long-winded here because I love this program so much, but.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Ben, you probably have some pro tips, and we will get to them, but we're going to take a short break. There are so many veterans not taking full advantage of the benefits they've earned. We recently spoke with the Vietnam-era veterans who took decades to seek VA benefits. Let's take a look at a vet on the street.
I'm Josh from Contra Costa County Veteran Service Office. This is Buck and Ben. We're going to do a vet on the street. We're going to talk to veterans about the benefits they've used, both state and federal benefits.
I took the the Agent Orange screening because these guys said, and then once I went up did the screening, all of a sudden the VA says, well, you got a lot of other things you haven't been talking to us about. And next thing I know is they say, some of these claims are real. And so,
Yeah.
And then last 2 years ago with the PACT Act, they got in touch with me because I've had hypertension since I was 24. And they said, you fit the profile and, your hypertension is a result of Agent Orange.
That's right.
And I said, wow, for years, my own doctors have been telling me they think it was probably family related, I was 68. I was an engineman on a old destroyer. And one of my jobs was chipping paint under the boilers. You're surrounded by metal. And I don't know if you've seen a little chipping hammer. It makes a horrendous noise. And you're in a space about this high.
I'm sure it echoes everywhere.
Yeah. So tinnitus was the first thing that happened. And then I accused my wife of not hearing. So finally, we both went down at the same time and both had our tests. And hers was, and mine was.
So when did you file for hearing loss? You said you noticed it in 1968. When did you actually make that claim?
8 years ago.
That's a huge gap.
7 years ago.
So what advice would you give?
Do it now.
Yeah.
Do it now. Because we're not getting any younger.
I just felt, give it to somebody else. I didn't deserve. But somebody talked me into it, saying, you have earned this.
Yeah.
And so,
How many people have you said that to since that you've talked into going?
I've talked to at least 5 people.
That have the same attitude that you did.
Yeah. And I say, look, did you get it? If you don't know what to do with it, I'll help you donate it, and go and support other groups, and pay it forward.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. We're talking about benefits that every veteran should know. We'd love to hear from you too. If you have any questions or comments, follow the QR code on your screen to join us in Zoom webinar. Welcome back, Ben, Maurice, and Elena. So we didn't get to really finish up VR&E and get a couple pro tips about Chapter 35 and any others than we want. That was exciting, and there's not a lot of things that are exciting, but I think free education is exciting. Free that was earned by a veteran. So I want to ask Ben, you provided some pro tips, but I think you didn't get a chance to talk about Chapter 35 pro tips and VR&E pro tips. So go ahead.
Yeah, so something to really consider is Chapter 35, before there was 45 months of entitlement for those students who were awarded. Now it's been decreased to 36. When attending school, we'll use a semester-based education system. For example, if you go for full-time, you're utilizing about 4 months of worth of entitlement. Now, if you're starting this as an undergrad and you're trying to go, further your education, what hurdle are you going to run into? It's going to be the entitlement of the benefit. So if you're awarded Chapter 35, you're using Plan B, one thing to consider would be VA work study. I'm not going to dig too deep into that, but what it is eligibility criteria. You need to be attending school at least 3/4 time and using the chapter benefit. Working with VA work study, it's tax-free money. Now, while using the CalVet fee waiver, Plan B, what is that hurdle? What is that restriction? It's income-based. Now, if you're using CalVet fee waiver, Chapter 35, VA work study, you're making more money. And on top of that, with Chapter 35, you report 3/4 time, even though you're attending full-time. Instead of using 4 months of entitlement, now you're only utilizing 3. Even though you take a small pay cut from Chapter 35, guess what? Now you're making up for it by doing VA work study. Again, talk to your certifying official. VA work study is approved typically at any facility that assists with veterans benefits.
Such a good pro tip there, Ben. I always encourage folks to look into VA work study. You can make up to $1,500 a month extra, tax-free, just by doing some really simple work to help other veterans. And sometimes they'll even let you do some of your schoolwork on the side. So it's such a great program. I just want to jump in and remind everyone that we actually have a really great Veterans Voices show on education benefits. So if there's anything that you feel like we left out, look up our YouTube channel and go to the show on education benefits, and you can learn more about all these programs in detail.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to something a little bit different. We're going to talk about CHAMPVA. I think we actually have a graphic for this. CHAMPVA, access to VA skilled nursing, Center for Rehab and Extended Care, and respite care. So Maurice, can you get us started with CHAMPVA?
Yeah, certainly, Josh. CHAMPVA is and I always mangle this acronym, the Civilian Health something administration program for the VA. Again, I mangle that acronym all the time, but basically what it is it's health care for dependents of veterans, spouses and minor children of veterans who are, again, rated 100% service connected, passed away due to a service connected disability, or who died in the line of duty. And it provides reimbursement for, I believe it provides reimbursement for healthcare costs assumed by the dependent for eligible dependents receiving healthcare. Now, one thing to note about CHAMPVA is that if the spouse or dependents are also eligible for TRICARE, they have to use their TRICARE benefit. I'll leave it off there, but I'm sure there's a lot more information that's available on CHAMPVA that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I just want to share a story about that last point that you made. So if the dependent, the spouse or the child of the veteran is eligible for TRICARE, that trumps CHAMPVA. They can't elect to use CHAMPVA instead of TRICARE. But that's only if they're eligible for TRICARE. And I remember that because I had a veteran who came in and he was very, very upset that his wife couldn't use CHAMPVA while she was qualified for TRICARE because they wanted to go, I think they wanted to go to like the same hospital or something. And, TRICARE being a different network, she had to go to a different hospital than he did. But that one always sticks out of my mind. Ben, do you know, does CHAMPVA cover only medical or does it cover dental as well?
So for CHAMPVA, I mean, it pretty much covers, the best way to describe it is it's pretty much kind of like Medicare, right? For CHAMPVA, Medicare always pays first, and then whatever is left over, CHAMPVA will notify the individual who is eligible for the benefits, saying, you know what, this is what was paid for. They advise them, and they also tell them which reimbursement claim form they need to complete, and then CHAMPVA will go ahead and take care of the rest.
Yep. We're going to talk a little about VA, what part of dental VA covers, and in the next segment. So we'll get there. Definitely, that's a good question because we get that from veterans a lot. So. How about access to VA skilled nursing? How does that work, Maurice?
Skilled nursing and some of these healthcare programs that the VA provides to veterans is a little bit outside of my subject expertise, but there's different programs that the VA offers, different healthcare that the VA, inpatient healthcare the VA offers, including the community living centers, the Centers for Rehabilitation and Extended Care, the CREC. Different facilities have these, usually a hospital, a VA medical center, or a larger VA clinic. And my understanding is, first of all, you have to get approved by your primary care provider, is the first part of that. So you have to talk to your primary care provider. And then I believe, and again, I wish I knew the exact answer to this, but it's something that we would look up if you come to a county veteran services office. But you have to have, for the CLC, the community living center, you have to have a 70% service connected disability rating or higher to be admitted.
The good thing is, all these benefits we're talking about, we've done shows that cover them in detail. Today we want to highlight them a little bit more. Respite care, Ben, do you know what that is? Can you help us a little bit? I'm sure you know what it is. Sorry, it's a crazy question.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, these programs were not 100%. We don't know everything about them in detail. But one thing that I do want to highly encourage veterans who are looking for programs like this over at the Veterans Health Administration is get connected with a VA social worker. Mm-hmm. They are basically your voice, getting a hold of your primary care physician, home health aide, respite care, the CREC, all those different places. They work hand in hand with you as the veteran or even the family member in getting the veteran the care that they really need. Now, 70%, it is a magic number, right? For home health aide, the eligibility requirement is 70%. Service-connected disability rating. The Comprehensive Family Caregiver Program, also a Veterans Health Administration benefit, that's a 70% rating. So get connected with a VA social worker if you are in need for these other VA healthcare benefits.
Thank you so much.
And I'd just like to add that, some programs, I don't want to get too far afield here, but some programs that the VA offers don't require a service-connected disability. You just have to be enrolled in the VA. And these could be in-home, healthcare programs that help the veteran stay in the community. Home-based primary care might be an example. I'm not sure if there's a service-connected disability rating requirement for that. But, getting assistance from skilled nursing facilities or other types of healthcare in the community could also be achieved by veterans who don't have a service-connected disability or have a less than 70% service-connected disability.
Thank you, Maurice and Ben. So we're taking a brief break, but when we return, we'll conclude our conversation about veteran benefits. So stay with us.
Honestly, I'm not really sure why I'm calling. It's just,
I'm having nightmares.
My husband and I, we're just fighting a lot.
I can't get any sleep.
Things just keep getting worse, and it's starting to feel like I can't do this by myself anymore.
We could use some help figuring things out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on? There's no wrong reason to reach out for crisis support. Whatever you're going through, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help. Visit veteranscrisisline.net to learn more.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. We're talking about benefits that every veteran should know. If you have any questions or comments, follow the QR code on your screen to join us in Zoom webinar. We would love to be part of the show. So, as promised, we're going to talk about VA dental care, because I know that's questions that we get in our office, and I'm sure you get, Maurice, and that every VSO gets them all the time. what does VA cover as far as dental care? How are you eligible? What do veterans need to do? And we'll start with Ben this time.
Yeah, so some of the eligibility criteria in order to receive dental care over at the VA would be having a service-rated disability for a dental condition, whether you have a rating or for treatment purposes only. Another one would be veterans who are rated permanently and totally disabled by the VA. They are entitled to VA dental care. And of course, our POWs.
Thank you, Ben, and I apologize to you and to everyone else. I did jump ahead a little bit. We're going to talk in this segment. We're talking about VA dental care, partial property tax exemption, DMV vehicle registration waiver, if the disability impairs mobility, and total disability individual unemployability, known as TDIU, and concurrent retirement disability pay, known as CRDP. So thank you for that. I just want to make sure the viewers know what we're going to be talking about. Dental.
I just want to add to the VA dental care conversation. Dental care is expensive, and I know for years there's folks in Congress who have been trying to expand this benefit to all veterans, but there's always pushback because of the budget, right? It's very expensive. But I bring that up because the great thing about VA dental care is that when you go in and you see a VA dentist, they're making the best decision for you as a patient, and they're not worried about the bottom line. So if you do have eligibility for this benefit, use it. It might be a little bit challenging to navigate, but call your local VA hospital, ask to be transferred or connected with your dental clinic, and get an appointment on the books, because this is one of the benefits that we're just constantly hearing back from veterans, that the service that they get is amazing. So we don't want anyone to miss out on this one.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's move on to partial property tax exemption. And Maurice, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the partial property tax exemption is, again, it's a California benefit, and it's actually delivered through the board of, is it the board? The BOE is the acronym I'm going to use. It's an exemption on your property, a partial exemption on your property tax, and it's for veterans, again, who have a 100% service-connected or rated 100% service-connected, permanent and total, or who are TDIU, individual unemployability. And it, again, waives part of your property tax. And it's also available for the spouse of an unmarried spouse of a deceased veteran who passed away due to a service-connected disability or who was rated 100% when they passed away.
So this benefit depends on what county you live in as far as how much is going to be waived, right? So there's no way for us to answer. I mean, maybe if we work in a certain county, but Ben, do you have anything to add on that? I know that one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say the most common name for it is property tax exemption, right? But we're in the state of California, nothing's really free. So when we talk about to our veterans, it's a reduction. So yeah, I mean, the best thing to do is reach out to your county veteran service office, because some things you are going to need is a VA disability breakdown letter. We can request that for you directly from the VA. Basically what it is, it says that you've been rated permanently and totally disabled by the VA and that you are eligible for this benefit. Now, it really depends who you talk to in the county, though. Over at the tax assessor's office, some will take a letter from your county office with a rating decision, some won't. So what we usually do is we recommend getting that letter, disability breakdown letter, either on va.gov, or we can request it directly from the VA.
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
Sorry, and I think it's important to note what Ben just mentioned, the assessor's office, tax assessor's office, that's the CVSO does not, you don't apply for that benefit through the county veteran services office. You apply for it through your tax assessor's office.
Yeah, also known as the county registrar. It kind of just depends on your county. So figure out who does property taxes in your county, reach out to them, and just, go with that expectation that they're going to ask you for some documentation. So have some documentation on hand that shows that you are eligible. They'll ask you to get that documentation over to them, and it'll probably take some time to process. One pro tip that I was going to mention, though, in regards to the partial property tax exemption, is a lot of folks who are paying property taxes have a mortgage, and they're paying their property taxes through escrow. So you also want to reach out to your mortgage company and let them know once you've been approved for this partial property tax exemption, so they could actually lower your monthly payments by lowering your escrow. So that's a pro tip for folks at home.
Hey, that's a good tip for me too, Elena. I didn't know that. Yeah. But I also want to make sure that viewers are aware that if you are a low-income veteran or spouse, there's a higher exemption amount. Again, this is county dependent, so it depends on your county. They're the ones who assess that benefit.
Somebody go.
I was just going to say, for surviving spouses who are entitled to DIC, you are eligible for this. What you want to do is talk to your county veteran service representative, get your dependency indemnity compensation award letter, and we'll provide you the contact to your local tax assessor's office.
Thank you. So there's a lot of benefits that they're not necessarily ran through the VSO or the VA, or even the California Department of Veterans Affairs. They're ran through a different county agency, a different state agency, and another one we have is a DMV vehicle registration waiver if the disability impairs mobility, and that one is always kind of tricky, right? I believe, let's start with either one of you. Which one of you wants to talk about that?
Sure, I'll go, if you don't mind, Ben, and then you can jump in for whatever I miss. So the DMV, it's actually a disabled veteran license plate. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to distinguish between registration waiver, which a lot of veterans are interested in because you're not paying your vehicle's registration, and the fact that this is actually a disabled veteran plate, which the DMV waives the registration fees for if you are eligible for the for the license plate. It's if for eligible veterans, and eligible veterans are, again, those who are rated 100% service connected, permanent and total by the VA, who have a severe mobility impairment, or significant mobility impairment, I should say, who are visually, who are 100% or blind, or who have lost an extremity, lost use of or lost an extremity. That is kind of the eligibility requirement for this state benefit, DMV benefit. And again, if eligible, which you can get that eligibility or that determination of eligibility through your primary care provider, or you can come to a county veteran services office, and if we can determine that at least one of your disabilities, service-connected disabilities, causes the mobility impairment, we can sign off on that, what's called a VSD 001. That's the form that you would take to the DMV, and you could be eligible for the disabled veteran plate, which again, the DMV would waive the registration fees for.
What did you miss, Ben?
Well, I mean, just one thing that I wanted to add is we, as veteran service representatives, we're not physicians. So we can't say, truly yes or no. But if there is a clear mobility impairment, then we can sign off on it. If we cannot, for any reason, we would provide the veteran with the REG 256 alpha form to take over to their physician. So that's one thing I wanted to add. But a few more is, with the DV plate, the disabled veterans plate, you do not have to pay tolls in the state of California. That just recently passed, I believe, last year. So that is a huge one. If you have a DV plate, you can only utilize it for one vehicle. If you have two, my recommendation is talk to the person at the DMV, whoever's assisting you, let them know that. What they can do is issue you a placard for the other vehicle as well.
Man, we got some pro information. You guys covered that disabled veterans plate and registration waiver so well. I'm just going to add one other pro tip. So in the Bay Area, you might have never had a car before, because folks can grow up around here without, any personal vehicle and just use public transportation. But let's say you're going to the dealership and you're buying yourself a brand new car. Most folks, when they buy a brand new car, they're going to actually pay the dealership to handle their registration through the state of California. And so you might be asking yourself, well, I know I'm eligible for those fees to be waived. Who's going to waive them for me? Is it the dealership? Do I not have to pay this extra fee to them now? And the answer is no, you still have to pay the dealership. They still have to deal with your registration for you when you're buying a new car from them. They can't sell you a car without that. But once you are eligible and you have your VSD 001 from the County Veteran Service Office and you have your new car with your new license plates in hand, you take that license plate and your VSD 001 to the DMV and they will actually refund you those registration fees.
And one last thing I want to add, Elena, you brought up a great topic. I mean, especially in San Francisco, public transportation is amazing. If you have a disability rating of 50%, reach out to your regional transit, I believe it's county, it's RTC card. Look it up. What that does is it provides you free, I believe, Muni and a highly discounted rate for BART. I believe it's 60%. So
amazing. I love that one.
And I think one more, I don't know if it's a pro tip, or a downside, but the vehicle has to be registered to the veteran.
That is correct.
But the veteran doesn't have to drive the vehicle, of course, if they're visually impaired or they've lost the use of a limb. I mean, it's probably, somebody else is probably driving that vehicle.
I love the pro tips. And I mean, all the benefits we've talked about tonight is dependent on your Service Connect disability, whether it's 0 to 100%. So the next thing I really want to talk about is the total disability individual unemployability, TDIU, which I think is something we throw the word out all the time, or the acronym out. But can you tell us, Ben, we'll start with you again. We have a slide on the screen to make a little more sense. What is TDIU?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, 2 ways to be found eligible. You have a single rating of 60% disability, or if you have a combined rating of 70, one of those ratings needs to be a 40. This is basically where your disability is so severe, it hinders you from maintaining gainful employment. Now keep that in mind, maintaining gainful employment. So when you file for this benefit, you get awarded. It does not change your overall combined rating. However, due to the severity of the disability, the VA compensates you at the 100% rating. Now, when I talk about maintaining gainful employment, very common question, well, can I still work? Generally, no, right? But technically, yes. So you can work. However, your salary cannot be higher than whatever the state poverty, or whatever the poverty limit is, okay? So you can still work, but you just cannot make more than whatever the poverty limit is.
And to add to that, the VA does do Social Security matching. So they do pull your IRS transcripts from the Social Security Administration, and they do verify whether you are making more than the federal poverty limit or not.
Yeah, and then one last thing is going to be, when you get awarded your TDIU, take a look, speak with your county veteran service representative, and see if it's been decided as permanent and total. Why? Because if it is, then it opens up the gateway for all these other benefits that we talked about previously.
So if you're talking about one's permanent total, one's TDIU, permanent total means for the rest of your life, they're never going to do exams to see if your whatever is improved?
Correct.
Okay. And does that also mean that you can never work again, or is it the same thing?
Same thing. I mean, you can go back to work if you decide that, let's just say $4,000 a month, it's not enough to cover mortgage or other expenses. If you plan to go back to work, let's just say full-time, you need to notify the VA about that change. Okay. Because if you don't, like Elena said, Social Security match, we don't want debt waivers. We don't want debt letters.
Right.
Maurice's favorite word, the nuance. So we don't want that.
And, I would also say that, like all these benefits, oh boy, I lost my train of thought on that one. Thanks, appreciate it, Ben. You nuanced.
Something actually came up for me when we were talking about, debt waivers and notifying the VA of important life updates. And we didn't have this on the schedule to talk about, but can you get an extra amount of payment for a dependent if you are disabled?
Correct, yeah. So once a veteran receives a 30% disability rating, you want to notify the VA. Why? Because it provides additional compensation to the veteran for these dependents. Now, a lot of vets always ask, okay, so how much is my spouse going to receive? Well, nothing, unless you give them some money, but because it's going to be added to your compensation.
Yeah. So, the last benefit we're going to talk about tonight is, I think, one that's very unique, concurrent retirement and disability pay. There's definitely confusion for retired military members. So we only have about 1:45, so let's explain that in a nutshell to someone. What is CRPD and who is eligible? And how long do you have to be in the military? What's considered retired? I'll go with you, Ben.
So for concurrent retirement and disability pay, needs to be at least a 20-year retiree, okay? At least 20 years. It could be a combination of active duty and reserve. They need to have a service-connected disability rating of 50% or more, and they need to be receiving retired pay and compensation.
Maurice, come on, what did Ben miss? We got some time.
Well, he didn't miss anything, but I was just going to add that what it does is it backfills the amount. So actually backing up here, with VA disability compensation and retirement pay, VA disability compensation offsets retirement pay in normal circumstances. So if you're a retiree and you have less than a 50% service-connected disability rating, that amount of disability compensation you receive would offset your retirement pay if you elect to receive that compensation. If you have a 50% disability rating or higher, that CRDP backfills the amount that's offset by the disability compensation. I believe there's a ramp up amount. I don't know exactly how that works, but this benefit is actually applied directly, directly through the military component, the branch of service. I think we're running short on time here, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Maurice, and thank you, Ben. You guys are very knowledgeable, and to everyone, go see your VSO. That is our discussion. I want to thank all of our guests today. Please keep in mind that there's a long list of benefits that veterans have earned and deserve. It takes a little digging, but you may find some that you could change your life for the better.
We hope you found our conversation educational. If you have questions about any veteran benefits, your local county veteran service office is the best place to start. Find one near you at nacvso.org. To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, so be sure to subscribe. Click on the link or scan the QR code to find us on all of our social media channels. Our next show will air on Wednesday, May 14th at noon. We'll be learning about a variety of veterans organizations. You won't want to miss it. To all of our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all of you who tuned in tonight, thanks for watching and have a great evening.